All right, well, we've got a lot to get through today, so I think maybe we will kick off. Hello, everyone. Thank you ever so much for taking the time to join us today for Hire Like a Hero, Employer Brand Beyond the Basics. For those that don't know me, my name is Kate. I'm the Global Head of Talent here at Employment Hero, and I am joined today by our two guest panelists, Mark from Employer Brand Australia and Thibaut from Esri. Welcome aboard, Mark and Thibaut. I think it would be really, really wonderful if you could both briefly introduce yourselves to the audience to kick off and just share a bit more about your backgrounds and how you got into Employer Brand. And Mark, maybe we can kick off with you.
No problem. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for having me with you today. And thanks for showing up. I am the CEO and the founder of Employer Branding Australia. I got into this through many years of marketing and brand-related roles in and around recruitment and also engagement. And because I can talk a good game, I got promoted quite quickly. So I also got quite an immersion into leadership and culture early on. Made a load of mistakes, then figured out what really works and decided to devote a career to that. So as much as we call it employer branding, a lot of my work is around culture shaping and helping you win with your people.
I can't beat that. Hi, everybody. I'm Thibaut. I'm the talent acquisition lead for Esri across Australia, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. So we are specializing in geographic information systems, working across a very varied range of industries. Yeah, I'm originally from France, migrated to Australia 20 years ago. I can't believe it. Very much over 2 decades of talent acquisition, recruitment experience across a very varied range of industry, mining, oil and gas, construction, high-tech. And yeah, basically, through the years, I suppose I got really more and more exposed to how branding impacts TA or recruitment. So I've specialized into implementing hopefully what I see as best practice sourcing strategies to try and attract top-tier talent to drive our success and growth across the region. Yeah, and I think branding plays obviously quite a vital part in everything we do when it comes to talent acquisition. So very glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Thibaut is also among the best TA professionals I've ever worked with. I'm just going to call it. And so it's the combination of technical expertise and passion for this stuff, but also, actually operationalize it and making it work. So yeah, good on you, Thibaut. It's nice to see you.
Awesome. Well, thanks ever so much, guys. Great to have you here. Now, we want to get straight into the conversation, but just very, very quickly, a little bit of housekeeping. Please type your questions in the box down the bottom of your Zoom screens, and we'll endeavor to get to as many as we can during the presentation, normally towards the end. For those that we don't get to, we will seek to answer them after the webinar, and any that is still remaining, feel free to message one of the three of us on LinkedIn, and as far as possible, I'm sure we'd all be happy to respond. I'd also just like to note that today's webinar is being recorded, and both the recording and slides will be made available after the webinar has concluded. But now we've got a lot to get through, from showcasing your unique value beyond traditional EVP strategies to really practical tips for handling negative reviews and improving online perception. There's a lot to cover off today. So I just want to get straight into the juicy stuff. And Mark, I'm going to start with you. What do you think SMEs get most wrong about employer branding, and how can they course correct? What are some of the biggest mistakes or challenges that you've seen over the years?
Yeah, I love that question, Kate. Thank you. First thing to say is that when we say SME, it's a very broad brush, right? We've got organizations who are represented today with 10 people. We've got others who might have a couple of hundred and maybe into the high hundreds. It is very, very different depending on your business. But the thing I've found consistently happening in this space is the assumption and the mindset that if you're a smaller business, you're struggling to compete and you are less well equipped to do employer branding, to do recruitment well, to shape your culture than bigger players. And I'm here to tell you it's the other way around. It is much, much, much easier to shape great employer brand strategy and recruitment marketing strategy and talent acquisition strategy in a smaller business than a larger one. And critically, it's much easier to drive great culture, to shape a future, to connect with your people when you're a smaller business. Everybody knows if you break it down, what actually matters to people, employer branding really is about what matters to people and how you deliver on that and how it all comes together. I want to make a difference. I don't want to be a number. I want to be able to actually grow, not just through a course, but by doing this. I want to feel I belong. I want to build relationships that matter. You are more able to do those things in a smaller business than a large one. So grab hold of that. What they get wrong is they sit crippled by that and they don't take it on and they don't tell their story. By default, the best businesses that are out there are usually the ones that don't like shouting about themselves. It's not always the case, but I would far rather you have the substance and learn to tell the story than not really to have the great story in the marketing budget, but not have the substance. So key thing, learn to tell your story. Be very, very specific. Don't see this as a bolt-on and a big thing you've got to do. And the critical one that everyone who knows me knows I'm going to say, employer branding is not a campaign. And frankly, running a campaign and expecting lots of video views and that's it, or it usually requires an advertising budget. It requires a lot of spend. You don't need to do those things. There's so much you can do, especially as a smaller business that doesn't cost a lot of money, that is much more strategic, and that when you do it properly, will also help you with your commercial goals. It'll help you win business.
100%. I agree with you, Mark. And I think there's there's also a period of time where you start to you need to start by questioning yourself. So, take a moment to literally jot down what makes you stand out in a good way or a bad way. What makes people proud to work for your company? How can you brand yourself, transform your employee experience to attract those talent that you might be struggling to attract? I think you need to try and understand from your perspective how the leadership of your company, the mission, the vision contributes to a compelling employer brand. But I think, like Mark said, it needs to be authentic, it needs to be strategic and obviously well executed. So, having that strong digital presence and trying to convey the best candidate experience will set you up for success for sure.
Awesome. Thanks both. And Thibaut, perhaps sticking with you, what's one really unconventional strategy that you've tried or that you've seen that's worked really well for actually showcasing a brand's unique value? Could be anything.
That's a good one. Look, I think there are a few things that pop up to my mind. The first thing I did a while back was to try and understand the frustration of people not wanting to go through our application process. So sometimes our processes can be quite heavy, quite daunting. And that's where, as an employer, you need to also kind of think carefully about what you're trying to attract and how you're trying to get people to come across. Processes can be heavy because of the nature of the jobs that you're looking after or for the type of talent you're trying to, to attract. But you also need to make, things that are complex fairly simple. Lots and lots of candidates are actually time poor. And believe it or not, when you overload the process with complex stuff that they need to go through, your drop-off rate will be gigantic, and that's where you're going to miss out on really great talent. So one of the first things I did a while back was actually putting myself in the shoes of a candidate. So when our recruiters were putting the ads out there and we're starting to spread the word out, you can see there's a great engagement, there's a lot of clicks going on, there's impression, and yet in the back end you've got very little applications are really hitting it. That to me is really essential. Like, you need to leverage your insights on data, and so you need to kind of uncover the sort of differentiator, because but by doing the sort of deep dive analysis, you can actually go way beyond your EVP element. So it's not just about compensation, it's not just about flexibility or career growth. These days, what you need to also understand is what's going to drive someone that doesn't know me or my brand to actually go and click and go through the application process.
Yeah, plus one on analytics and data. So whatever your platform you're using, whether it's Employment Hero, whether it's LinkedIn, whatever, they should all have some great stats around things like candidate drop-off rates, application completion rates, and that might help you understand if you've got early on a really big challenge just with that initial first step, which is candidates are interested, but are they actually completing through to applying? Mark, I know that you've worked with companies of a variety of sizes and across a bunch of different industries, and I know that we've got quite a kind of mixed audience with us today. So really interested to know, having worked with this breadth of organizations, what are some of the most effective ways you've seen for an organization to communicate a company's unique value beyond like the traditional EVP practices of, you know, putting their employee benefits on a job ad, having their careers page? What's maybe a step further than that can work really well?
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting. I was asked once in a sales meeting, someone said, what are the quirkiest, craziest EVPs you've ever done? And I said, I'm going to disappoint you. I don't do quirky, crazy EVPs. I do ones that work. And I think that, so the truth is I can tell you some really cool, interesting ideas, and I will tell you one in a moment. But the thing I'm here to say, whether you're large, small, whatever your industry, wherever you're at in the life cycle, it is about how you operationalize it and stitch it together. So if you want an example, go and check out what PowerLink Queensland are doing. Justin Howe and the team there are doing some really great work. What they've done well, and all their metrics are fantastic. They're doing super well. They got a great EVP, but they deployed it properly. The biggest thing they did, in my opinion, is they built it from the ground up, which is part of our approach, building it authentically with the people. But critically, they didn't just launch it as a campaign. They've embedded it across the entire candidate journey, which is linked to what Thibaut was talking about. They've also built it through the employee life cycle increasingly. Check out the work. Belinda Leon at Bendigo and Adelaide Bank, they've just launched a careers site with their new EVP. It's still work in progress and evolving, but there's some really good examples coming out. But I wanted to give you an example, if that's okay, and I'll try not to take too long. It's one that hasn't been done yet, so feel free, everybody, to nick this and go and make it happen. Great EVPs are when the EVP tells the story, so that if, for example, if I interact with you and I don't know you very well, it shows me inside. I always say it's taken off out the windows, opening up the windows, taking off the roof, and letting me see inside. And reflect the other way around, what you then see is that when people get there, they experience the EVP that you promised. And that's not just about, oh yeah, we pay you what we said you would. That's the functional Ben, right? One example I'll give you, I worked in advising a boat builder. Fascinating business. I can't name them, but it was one of those brilliant moments. Their main competitor was across the road from them, and they were just there. And the main competitor on the other side of the road was slicker and smarter and more aggressive, and they were stealing all their people. So they wanted to try and retain people. They wanted to try and reinforce why people stay, but also attract people. And I said, well, my first piece of advice is put a great big billboard on the top of your building saying it's much better here, and an arrow downwards, you know. And I'm not being facetious about this. The pub door, you know, the toilet door in the pub, the notice board, don't just think it's all about big digital campaigns. But the thing that we also talked about, and I'm really hoping they've done it, I'll check in with them after this, that I asked them about their differences, and they said, we're just so much more connected. It is more, it's real, it's authentic. People feel really valued here. People are loyal here. Whereas there, it's you go there for the brash, the transactional, the more money, and the big promise. And so we talked about, well, when they get there, we talked about welcome packs. And I said, well, do you give them a mug? And they say, yeah, everyone loves Smoko, everyone loves tea. So I said, well, give them a mug before they start with their surname on it, or their name on it. And then I said, and how long's your probation period? She said, oh, well, after a month it's probation. I said, well, by then, how many of them have a nickname? And they said, everyone. And I said, well, what about when they pass probation, give them a new mug with their nickname on? And then we talked about these amazing, pretty earthy humans in many cases, but amazing craftspeople building a very, very high value product. And we talked about what happens when they say goodbye to that product. So you build this boat, and the boat goes off to the Russian billionaire, and they never see it again. And I said, well, what do you send? Do you send like a brochure with it and like a welcome thing? And they said, oh yeah, we send a big thing like that. So we had the idea that within that brochure on the inside cover, you'd have the photographs of each person who built that boat. And as those people sign off that boat to go away, they sign it. You think about, and I guess it's just a story and just one example, but the whole point here is, how does that make the craftsperson feel? It's pride, it's ownership. How does it make the client feel? Really great, right? They can see the people who built this. We all want to see that. And it reinforces the EVP of here, you really do matter, rather than some nonsense on your website saying our people are our greatest asset.
Yeah, that's exciting. Just to bounce on Mark's example there, I think at a more granular sort of level, when you specialize into whatever industry it might be, and it's quite niche, and you're struggling to be seen out there, or you're not known in the corporate world, whatever it might be, a very simple way to actually convey who you are is actually getting your people to talk about how it is to work there. And I know you're smiling because loads of people loads of people these days think that, you know, you need massive tools, expensive stuff to film and edit and, you know, and all the rest. I'm in the opinion that you don't. You know, you can actually get your phone out and, you know, talk to the hiring manager about what it is to work for, you know, for that team. Try and find a sort of little, you know, things that will make you stand out. And I think it's about knowing your audience as well. So like, you know, if you've got a targeted audience and you know what you're looking for and what you do not want, that's going to help you tremendously to actually, you know, really convey a message that's simple and that will touch the right crowd.
Yeah, it's so true. I've seen a lot of stats and research recently around the fact that actually low production value content significantly outperforms a lot of high production value content. So you might not need a professional videographer and a really slick branding video. You could just get a bunch of selfie style videos from employees and upload those onto whatever your preferred platform is. Yeah, I think that's a really good tip. Awesome.
Okay, sorry. For what it's worth, I agree with that entirely, but it's the balance. You've got to have, and again, I'm sorry, declaring bias. We do the glossy videos as well, but I'll tell you every single time, if you just have DIY, the stats will show it's limited. And you think about the people that you don't often hear from, the people who initially get there, but you do not need loads. You certainly don't need big advertising budgets. And so what we will talk about is build your talent shop front with some professionals, some UGC, user-generated content, and then let it flow with those users. And the more you can engage them and make that authentic, rather than the employer branding or the marketing team asking, can you please be in a video, the better you'll get, the better results you'll see.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you both. We've got a heap to cover, so I'm going to move along to what I think is going to be a hotly anticipated topic. It's one that I've had several questions about already this year, and that's AI. It is a hot topic across all industries, and the question is always whether or not it's applicable or could be applicable to different areas of the organization. So maybe we'll go with you, Thibaut. Interested to know, how do you see AI reshaping the way that we approach employer branding? And can you maybe share any examples of AI being used really effectively in this space?
Yes, surely. Well, look, the first comment, I think everybody will probably agree. It's definitely here to stay, and it will definitely augment capacity as it keeps on learning about us. Because I've been obviously, you know, very involved into it since the beginning, and I kind of see AI as an augmenting tool rather than a replacement tool like many others. I see it as a kid. You know, you have to learn about it, but you also have to educate it about yourself. And there's a lot there. So the first thing I would encourage, you know, probably the audience to do is make sure that whatever AI platform or tool you're using, you're actually spending a fair amount of time on a regular basis to really customize it. So it does need to know about you. It does need to know about your organization, your objectives, and more. And look, it's simple to do some very basic learning about it. And the one thing that I will say, because I know there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, it's going to, you know, replace me, or it's going to, you know, bump me out of the shortlists. Guess what? It won't probably replace you, but the people that will have those sort of skills will probably be on top of the shortlist. So for me, what really stands out is how you're actually leveraging on new tech, not you know, how do you automate everything? Because automation is everywhere these days, and integrations as well. And I'm all for it because I think it simplifies you know, the processes. But there are many, many things that AI won't be doing. And I think, you know, us as human beings, we will still definitely have the say. You still need your guts at the end of the day to also, you know, associate a potential person externally to come in and join a team, an existing team, the impact it has, and so on and so forth. Example of stuff that we've recently done using AI, and we've seen it, you know, really working for branding. You know, you can use it for many things, LinkedIn posts, blogging, you know, career page updates, testimonials where you want to, you know, review things a little bit, chatbots even. you've got some video interviews, you've got some enhancement of your I guess your branding itself. So like when you stop typing stuff and you're unsure, or you're like me and sometimes you know your brain switches to a different language, you just go, oh, hold on a second, I've lost track here. So it's you know, it's about helping you out really to do better. I think if I can give a takeaway to anyone out there, learn about AI, I mean, not just AI. I would certainly think that one of the key, you know, takeaway for the audience here would be learning about the variables. So prompt engineering is something that you will hear more and more over the next year. Just to give you an idea, but prompt engineering is basically the practice of crafting and refining prompts to just optimize the responses that you're getting from AI. And it goes across all the different platforms, whether it's GPT, Gemini, Copilot, Bard, Claude, you name it. And basically what it does is you're structuring your input in a way that's going to guide AI to produce an accurate, relevant, and a really high quality outputs. So you need to keep on prompting it. It's not an exact science yet because it still learns about you. And I think, you know, variables are kind of placeholders, and they're pretty much allowing for that flexibility and adaptability for those generated response by AI. So that's going to help you create, you know, dynamic, reusable, and structured sort of, you know, responses. You can refine, you can retune, you can enhance, and it's really, really going to get there to a point where your outputs will get really better. And it's funny because I'm talking about educating AI, but guess what? AI is also providing you with a different insight about how you're actually, you know, communicating and engaging with people out there. And for me, one that really works out, and I just wanted to give a bit of a, you know, a bit of a shout to someone out there. Have a look at ProPrompt. He's a guy that I've been working with for a while, and you know, it changes and improves on a regular basis. There are, you know, so many different topics in there that can be covered, and I think it's a great way to get started.
Thanks, Thibaut. From my point of view, Kate, I think and Thibaut is a wealth of knowledge on this stuff. What we see in employer branding specific stuff is it's three things. It's right now it's a really nice data point and a source to help you get information, capture information. So you can type in some prompts and say, what do engineers in Australia want today? And you'll get some information. Will you get the right information? No, but would you if you asked the human? No. Then the next one is to help you summarize information. You know, we're exploring a lot around how do we, you know, when we have meetings, recording the meeting, get a transcript, then just getting summaries. That's not hard to do anymore. And then the third, and so if you've got a lot of data sets, data points to look at, you can use it to give you some clarity and synthesize that information. And the last one, I believe, is to multiply and scale content. So if you've got some really awesome pieces of content, I think the absolute immediate future of this, it's happening now, but we'll do it better, is to create some awesome human-led content and then massify that and create 300 social posts from those 5 bits of content. And you can obviously get those prompts right, and you can say, well, now angle it towards this audience, this audience. The big word I have on all my prep notes, I actually prepped for this webinar, Kate, is careful. And it's not about beware. And I mean, there is some beware. Of course there is. There's beware to everything right now. We're all terrified, right? Of everything. But it's just why do we need to say you either don't use it or it becomes your entire life and ecosystem and oxygen? Use it as another tool. But the thing that is still there, you talked about who, you know, should be people worried about their jobs, Thibaut. If you're a writer and you mindlessly just write nonsense content that just fills a page, be worried about your job. But if you are genuinely a creator of content, if you're a connector of humans, if you are a storyteller, then you're using that wonderfully, you know, subjective human emotional brain of yours to have an opinion on something, to see something from a certain angle, and then to share that in the way that you see it. Now that's immensely flawed if you want highly objective robotic content, but that's not what we're looking for. The future is a beautiful combination of both.
100%.
I think maybe the final thing I'll say on AI is that I think that sometimes there is an unfairly negative stigma attached to using any form of AI in the recruitment process, that it automatically becomes inhumane, where I strongly disagree. I think if you use the right tools, it can actually give a much better candidate experience than one person that's potentially really, really overworked. If you use it in the right places, all you're really doing is giving that person more time back so that they can really focus on value add. So for us, obviously we use our own tool. We use SmartMatch. We interviewed all the heroes, as we call them, that we hired via SmartMatch and spoke to them about the recruitment experience. And they were just amazed that they didn't actually have to apply for a job. Someone just found them, it got matched up, and they were able to make that connection really quickly, which took such a headache out of the kind of standard application process. And B, it automatically updated them as they were moved through different stages of the recruitment process. So there was no ghosting. They were just kept so up to date on what was happening. So I suppose a final comment from me is that I don't think we should be scared of it. I think we can really embrace it in the right way, and then it can add to your employer brand. Content, we've still got a bunch to get through. So the next one is a topic that is really front of mind for me at the moment, which is channels and visibility. I can maybe share a real life example. So something that we've experienced recently at EH is that we might be a well-known business in Australia and have quite a strong brand here, but we do also hire in markets like Vietnam, for example, and we weren't getting as many eyes on our employer brand over there. We've got really good benefits, we offer really amazing career progression, and we will keep posting things on LinkedIn, but seemingly nobody saw it. And I didn't have an obvious solution for that. Now, luckily, I could kind of go and talk to our marketing team about how maybe we could promote that more. But for a smaller business, that might not be an option, and they still might be having the same challenge. So, Mark, maybe we'll start with you. What are some of the more effective marketing channels for smaller businesses to boost their brand visibility, especially if they might be working with a limited budget?
Yeah, absolutely, Kate. And here I've got attention because there's a that you feel this need to say a new channel that no one's heard of, or a really spicy idea that's especially for smaller businesses, especially if budget isn't huge. No. You know, the funny thing, someone asked me the other day, is the employer branding market maturing? How has it matured? And I said, not really. It's become more prevalent, more people are doing it. But I think most organizations, even those investing money and time and energy into employer branding, not enough of them are actually doing the basics well enough. First thing you do with any channels is start with audience. Anything related to brand, marketing, communications, strategy, anything. Who are we actually talking to, and what do we want them to do? If you break that down, if you're hiring regional employees into roles, again, in regional locations, then the local community is a massive, if you want people from those communities, is a massive driver, far more effective than most other channels you could spend on. Think about radio, think about all the old school stuff, right? We see a lot of effectiveness still in driving awareness and reach in Facebook. We have never seen consistent conversion through Facebook in terms of campaigns, but if your conversion is to get people to follow you, to engage with you, Facebook's pretty strong. I would argue LinkedIn organic remains a really, really powerful tool. There's a lot of people saying, oh, so LinkedIn will say, yep, all these audiences are on our channels. Then there's others who'll say, well, but they're not really, they might have a profile. Key thing I'll say is, yeah, well, even if they're not there and they're not active, they've got partners and friends and colleagues who are. So what we see quite a lot that works very well is referral campaigns, if you're going to go there, or third-party content. Who do you know who is and who's engaging? So we do a lot of work in that space. The last one I want to say before I hand to Thibaut is word of mouth. And again, everyone's been saying this at conferences and webinars forever. Who is genuinely doing word of mouth recruitment marketing really well? If you are a small business, whether you're 10 or 1,000 people, and in some industries, 1,000 is a small player, right? But if let's say you've got 300 people or under, don't go to your team and say, we're recruiting, do you know anyone? Because what that human being does is they go, no. You know, at most, I don't know anyone who's looking. No one said that was no front of mind. Go to that team and say, we're getting ready to hire into your team. Roger's left. We're going to replace Roger. Help us. How do we as a team make sure that we don't end up with someone who's going to hate this, or it's not going to work? How do we bring someone in who not only is going to join us and accept the job, but who's going to thrive with you and who's going to make your life better? Help us shape the future of this team, especially in a small business or a small team. If there's 6 of you and you hire someone that nobody likes or that holds the team back, it's very painful. So we've got to rethink this stuff and not just go word of mouth campaign. Yep, let's do that. let's involve our teams in hiring. Let's make it really easy for them. Give them posts to share if it's social, give them stuff they can take out, give them a postcard they can hand out in the pub, whatever. But then let's involve them in that recruitment process and the candidate journey so that not only are they helping us spread the word, and by the way, in most cases I've seen, your teams who are doing this job or working in this sphere are most likely to know many, many others who are or who could be doing the same job. But not only that, but by the time you get the hire already is connected with them. They know them. The employee feels responsible for the hire in the same way that Thibaut does from a TA point of view. And I know you do, Kate, and the work you do. And they will engage around that early hire experience. And I'm telling you, this all sounds like lovely talk. Does it work? It works. But you've got to operationalize it and build a strategy on who's going to do what and when. And so get back to the nuts and bolts rather than top line, above the line campaigns that don't connect with the actual candidate and employee experience.
Spot on.
Anything that you would add to that, Thibaut? Anything in particular that's worked really well for you guys to get your brand in front of the right talent as well as a lot of talent?
Yeah, look, I think you know, Mark knows the in and outs of how to be seen out there. Again, I'll repeat it, but like targeted audience definition is essential. The one thing that I want to bounce on is obviously location specifics as well. So, Kate, you had that issue, and I've faced it as well. You know, different markets, different culture, different type of engagement. What works, what does not work. Okay, and I think each like industry is gonna have a different view on this, and I think it comes down to knowing what you're wanting to target. So once you've got your target audience kind of defined, engage with your marketing team if you've got one. Okay, they are going to be able to put together campaigns. They're going to be able to help you out with SEO optimization strategies. You know, they're going to be able to talk to you about which channels will likely get the message in the right space and augment the visibility. For me, there's something that people, and again, that's probably, you know, I'll give a bit of my secret ingredients, but LinkedIn for me is again, an augmentation tool. So yes, it works. I've seen a couple of questions coming in, but yes, it works in many ways. You've got, you know, free learning, you've got advertising that can be efficient, but again, it comes down to how you convey the message out there. Know what works for your audience, you know. Is it going to be a video? Is it going to be a long text? Is it going to be full of links? Is it going to be, you know, a nice image or whatever it might be? For us, what really works as well is specialized groups. So one thing that is so underutilized on LinkedIn is the community-based groups. So like all the subgroups, the groups that are basically pertaining to the specific areas that you're wanting to potentially interact with. Yes, you've got, you know, a huge amount of followers. Great. Guess what? They're probably not going to be the one that will be applying to your jobs. The ones that will be applying to your jobs are the people that potentially know about your product or your services, but don't engage with your brand. And that's where you're going to be able to potentially identify people with a lot of potential. So we do a lot of replication and amplification of our ads, and we post them on many groups and subgroups to ensure that people that don't know about us or don't know about the brand actually have a chance to discover who we are. And we're trying to turn that complex, well, the complexity of what we do into something that's fairly, you know, simple, so people can actually really, you know, start interacting with us and encourage them to, even if they don't tick all the boxes, to engage with us and see if they can actually go through. So that's another thing. And last but not least, I just wanted to, again, you know, really point out that it's okay not to know. But the one thing that SMEs, and I'm talking small, medium businesses, recruitment agencies, whatever your activity might be, the best people to recommend potential employees to you are going to be known to your individual contributors. So in a nutshell, if you've got if you don't have a spotters fee or a referral program in your company, look into it, do it, incentivize it, money-wise, or even if it's just like, you know, recognition, rewards and stuff. Your people are the best people to convey who you are, why it's great to work where you are.
But I have to add, I'm sorry, Kate, I know we've got a lot of things. Just very quickly, that's a brilliant point. The referral bonus and so you're paying someone money to refer someone. I've asked many, many, many hundreds of people, leaders, do you have one? Yes. What do you do? And they'll say, what do you mean? And I say, well, when someone does refer someone, what happens? They say, we just put the money in their bank account with their pay. And I think that is one of the biggest missed opportunities in talent and employer branding and internal advocacy. You should be making a celebration of the fact that that person advocated for you enough to recommend it to someone they care about or they respect. I think we talked about, not just putting it in their bank account, but sending them a note from the CEO or from you as the team leader or from someone saying, I want to thank you, the manager of the team especially, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this and caring. I want you to say it publicly. And the critical one for me is if that referral bonus comes after they've passed probation, let's say it's after a month, and then they get the bonus, I want you to announce that when that person passes the bonus in the team stand up in the team chat. It's saying, stand up, Sarah and Ahmed. Sarah, I want to thank you. You've joined us. You passed your probation. Really brilliant. Really excited to have you. Ahmed, if it wasn't for you, Sarah wouldn't be here. And so here's your money, Ahmed. What are you going to spend it on? But much more important than that, I so appreciate your advocacy. It's an amazing. People start going, oh, I wish I had a voucher. I wish I had some money. And also, I wish I was getting applauded and recognized for being an advocate for this team.
Yeah, awesome. Some really, really good tips there, guys, and even some that I think I could probably reflect on a little bit for our team as well. The next topic that I wanted to touch on that is, again, I've had questions about it. It's something we've considered over the years, is addressing negative reviews and external perception. So that could be on Glassdoor comments, it could be on Google, it could be word of mouth, whatever it is. They can feel like a really big hurdle, I think, for employer brand, especially probably for smaller businesses, because a few voices can feel still like the vast majority and can drown everyone else out. So how would you say a business ought to handle that constructively, Mark?
It's awful, isn't it? You're there, you're trying to run a business, you're trying to run a team, you're trying to recruit, maybe not. And people can just say whatever they like and they can do it anonymously. It is the worst system and situation, but it's life. Same as TripAdvisor, same as the restaurant reviews. The golden rule to start with is know who you are, be comfortable with who you are, and don't be defensive and don't feel defensive. The next one is don't separate this out as a comms initiative that we need to respond to these reviews or deal with them. Link it up. So the first question we ask, and we've built strategies on this actually with our clients, but the first one is to say, how are we going to monitor these ongoing and how are we going to learn from them? So everybody knows if you go on TripAdvisor and there's some balmy old bloke saying, oh, they wouldn't even bring me a new fork when I asked for the fourth new fork I wanted. He's a nutter, right? So you ignore it. If someone's absolutely vitriolic and screaming in capitals at the screen, you probably, you move them on. But when you see moderate, well-articulated responses saying, yeah, it was okay working there, but to be honest, the leadership isn't great. And then the next post says, I really struggle with my manager. And then someone else said, I just think that some managers aren't there. There's a real opportunity to learn and understand. So the first thing before you go, how do we respond and how do we deal with this? And how do we move the number up from 1 to 4? Is saying, how do we learn? How can we understand? What are we going to do to improve the situation? The second one linked to that, and this is your strategy breakdown, in my opinion. The second one is how are we going to manage those responses and how are we going to respond? What are we going to do? My general rule of thumb is respond once to everybody unless it's clearly toxic and nasty. There's the old don't feed the trolls, but really respond if you can. But you respond with the mindset of 1% of my responses to this individual. And the bit I'm directing to them is, please come and talk to us. We'd like to understand this. And 99% of your response is to the rest of the world. Is there anybody else reading this? Right? You don't say it like that. But so what you're saying is you're responding politely and respectfully, even if they've been horrible. There's nothing a troll hates more than someone just being calm and respectful in response. And you're saying, it's words like, I'm sorry that you felt it wasn't your sort of thing. I'm sorry it didn't work out for you. Here's another killer line for you. I've used this myself when I've done this with other clients before I started my own business. It's saying it's not appropriate for us to comment on any one individual's circumstances. And immediately the reader's going, oh, okay, yeah. Because then we remember, when somebody leaves and it doesn't work out and they have a bad experience, it takes two to tango, right? And so we need to remind people, this wasn't there. Again, if you've got consistent measured feedback going, their culture's horrible, then you've got a problem. But if it's occasional bad reviews and so on, or if it's just random stuff, or if the classic one is who it is, but you can't say, just use it. So look, we don't want to comment on your personal situation. You can obviously say what you like about us and be anonymous. That's not something we can do. We urge you to talk to us if there's anything you'd like to see, but we want to reaffirm we do this and this and this. We're very proud of our culture. We're very proud of what our people achieve. If you've had challenges in the past, we're not perfect, neither is anybody. But you know what? We've been working harder than ever, and we're so proud of what we're doing with our people. Just say it like that, and then walk away with some really wonderful motivational music playing as you walk off into the sunset. But the next piece there again is go back and say, what are we learning? Some platforms, they can come back at you, and that is obviously, you've got to monitor that and be careful. Once you've done that one response, I think shut it down, don't reply. But and always invite them. Always invite them to come and talk to you. You have if you've worked here before, you have the details. If you haven't worked here before and it's a candidate experience thing, well, here's an email address you can contact. And we promise you that once you've emailed that, we promise you that a leader in our business will contact you to talk to you personally. And make that commitment. It's worth its weight in gold. Key thing is, most of them will never contact you again. I've seen some who send vitriol, you send a response like that and they take it down because they're embarrassed, because they've sobered up and they've gone, oh, okay, this doesn't make me look very good. Anyway, sorry, longer answer than I planned, but I just think it's get strategic and structured. What can we learn? How do we respond? And what are we going to do as a result?
Yeah, some really awesome, really practical tips there. So thanks so much for answering. I know it's a difficult one and a question that will be on a lot of people's minds. We've probably got time for maybe one more question before we go over to audience Q&A. If you're listening right now and there's a particular question you would like us to answer, reminder to please drop it into the box below and then we'll do our best to get to it. I think the final closing question for me, just to sum up from both of you, is if attendees were to take away one key action from this session, what would you recommend they focus on first to really elevate their employer brand? And Mark, maybe we'll stick with you first.
Oh, you went to me first. Okay. It is audience first. And people, smaller businesses, busy businesses, whatever you are, it's not rocket science to say. So we had a great question in there about call centers, which I can come on in specifics, but it reminded me, you start not by going, is a channel good or what? You start by saying, who are the people who could and should apply for this job? We did some great work, I remember, with a swim teacher organizations. They did swim schools. So they were looking for lifeguards and swim instructors. If you break that down, you've got some really interesting groups there. You've got students. A lot of it is they'll part-time hours, it's bits and bobs. So it's students. You've got parents returning to work, looking for something. You've got grandparents often who are looking for a few extra hours. We talked about Uber drivers and Diddy drivers, people who have portfolio jobs and incomes and careers. People are open that way. They have other people who are, and the classic one is a school leaver. There, by the way, you're talking to their parents as much as you're talking to the individual. So when you actually break that down and understand it, the first question is, who are these groups? And then you go, what is their life and work situation? What do they care about? And you don't need to commission loads and loads of research to know that stuff. It's not rocket science, right? Are you going to have a perfect understanding? No, but you never will anyway. So audience first, who are they? What matters to them? And how, and this is a dissection thing, how does what we offer as an organization and a place to work, how does that intersect with what they're looking for? If somebody, I have one where it's a human services, disability and young offenders. Imagine that, right? That is a night shift. So night shift, young offender with a disability. This is hard, right? Hard work. And the client was saying, how do we persuade someone they want to do night shift on top of this? And I said, well, the reality is for most people, they don't, but you're not going to talk to them. Because it's not worth trying to change their mind about night shift if their life doesn't allow it. What we're saying, but there are many, many people out there for whom night shift is a requirement or an absolute option. So speak to that and then sell on all of the things around that and the opportunity. And if it is volatile work and it's hard work, sell on that. Are you the most patient human being on the planet? Are you someone who loves hospitality is a lovely one, who loves taking an unhappy customer and genuinely using your skill to have them leave as an advocate for us? We see you. Do you see what I mean? So it's audience focused on everything rather than blah, blah, blah. What do I want to post on LinkedIn next?
Awesome. And Thibaut, how about you? Top tip?
Hard to top what Mark said, but I think there's one thing that hit me yesterday when I was also reviewing my notes and my prep, because I did prep too, a little bit. It's making clear the opportunity and the challenges that you face as well. So like, the authenticity is obviously everything. But there's also that need for people, and that's across every single industry. And I think there's more and more about that every day, and that's showing empathy. And I think I was reading something about that was published by one of Mark's team members yesterday, and that really hit me. And that's, what we do is not necessarily about us. It's about, or our team or our organization. It's about the other people that you're trying to reach. So audience, yes, but which them, like, who are they? Why do you want to interact with them? How do you want to retain them? How can you engage? And if you don't listen to them, or understand them, they're not going to be listening. And so what Mark was saying is spot on. There is an absolute need for HR, TA, in my humble opinion, to really, really work better across the the other divisions or business units, whatever you call them in your organization, not just marketing, but across everything. Because believe it or not, at the end of the day, people that want to join your company will probably have been exposed to a reasonable extent to another space of your business. So I think we need to keep on going further, and I think break the silos, work with your other team members, particularly if you're an SME, understand what people are working on, engage with them, define what are your unique strengths, and really know as well, like, what are your current employees' expectations. Put action plans together, look at what works, look at what doesn't, survey your staff, make sure you understand what challenges they face, see if you can help them. Yes, you won't be able to do everything, but surely enough out of 20 things, there might be 3 things that you can do this year and maybe another bunch next year. So I think it's about trying to be a better human for me. That's just trying to be just a bit more connected with people, rather than just yes, it's work and that's that. We spend so much time at work, so I think it's also important to just realize that whilst we all work in different spaces and everything, at the end of the day, we all go home at night and we all have another life. So it impacts everything and everything we do. So again, I think it's about connecting better with people and reflecting on what the other guys you're trying to reach might be expecting as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you both for sharing. We are going to whiz through a couple of questions that have been submitted by the audience. The first one was, can you recommend any training or courses on AI for HR? Any tips from either of you?
I'm happy to have a go at that one. Look, there are so much content online when it comes to AI. I think the first that comes to mind would probably be to, if you do have access, to look at the LinkedIn Learning database. There is just so much in there. GoOne as well has a huge library of content that's accessible, free and not free. There are also a lot of just simple articles that you can read about that will probably enhance your knowledge, your basic knowledge about AI pertaining to HR. Okay, and the one thing that I will encourage you to do is also potentially look into the prompt engineering pertaining to HR again. So that's very specific. But anyone who's got a desire to learn about AI in a specific area of a business should really start looking into that. So and guess what? You can also ask the AI platforms about how to learn about them. And that's really going to be an insightful response, because they'll be learning about what you want to learn about them.
Yeah, agree. I'm very nervous about degrees in AI, because by the time, it's just changing all the time. There's no point. And I actually know somebody who's done a significant course in this space. and they said the same. And who's going to teach that, right? It doesn't work in that way. I would argue it's not about getting a diploma in this thing. It is about following content, etc. For what it's worth, obviously, connect with me on LinkedIn if you like. Connect with Thibaut. There's a lot of people who we're liking their content and engaging with their content that is giving tips all the time. That are giving tips all the time. So, and the other thing, play with it. Just play with it.
Play with it, 100%.
Yeah, +1, go on YouTube, play around with it and get to know it yourself. I hope that that's helpful. Next question is LinkedIn advertising effective conversions for call center roles? I've got a view, but do either of you want to take it first?
Oh, you go first. We've talked
You go
about
first, yeah.
So just purely based on personal experience, this is, I would imagine that you would get higher conversions potentially from Seek or from another kind of job board. Again, purely from personal experience, we find that for those types of roles, the candidate pool would be better on a Smart Match or on a Seek or on something of that ilk.
Yeah.
oh, go on, you go, Thibaut.
Sorry, go for it.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, yes, if you want direct conversions to applications, yes, it's not the most effective in my experience and opinion. But again, if you're looking at call center roles, by default, you probably have volume. So the first thing you should do is not see it as individual. Oh, we have a vacancy or we've got 5 vacancies, let's go and fill them. What is your recruitment marketing strategy and your employer branding strategy behind it to ensure that you are well known as a great place to do a call center role? And that's where LinkedIn can be very, very powerful organically. So without advertising specifically, actually going out there, putting out great content that engages people. Again, think about what I said earlier, not just speaking directly to your target talent, but speaking to their parents, their uncles, their nephews, their colleagues, their friends, and really building up. So if you're building up a talent pool, and again, whether you're using a big system or not, build up that talent pool by engaging the market and showing that you're, showing that you're out there and that you have an opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll top that up with a quick one as well. But like the type of engagement you want for call center are probably going to be a bit different. So I would make it very easy to apply, very quick to apply, enabling whatever ATS you're using to actually collide the application in a couple of clicks. Through mobile, particularly mobile, super important. Like if it's not mobile friendly, you'll go nowhere. Look into smaller platforms as well, and places where people don't necessarily spend tons of money on. There are many of them out there. You can look at Jora, Indeed, and a few others as well. But like the thing with the sort of roles is to be very short and to the cutting the chase to really, this is the job, this is how much we pay, these are the benefits. Apply by doing this, and that's done. And so it's really about speed of application, but also it's going to be on you, because you're going to have to be effective in terms of reviewing application, engaging with the candidates, making sure that there's that sort of constant engagement. And I'm sure Kate can talk about the automation and engagement style that you can have with these.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks both. Next question was, how important is paid parental leave in current market as part of employer package? Who would like to take that one?
Well, I'm happy to, because that was a massive win for us. We recently did eventually get there, and I think it's important, man. Look, in these days, there's more and more pressure on everybody, whether financial or else, and I think if you can actually afford to do it, that will definitely set you apart. There are not that many companies out there that do offer it, so if you can afford it and it's something that's reflective of your brand, of your culture, then I would certainly encourage you to really start putting the business case together. Yes, it is an expensive exercise. Yes, it is complex, because you need to go through quite a lot of discussions at high level and more. But I think once you're there and you see the first couple of employees go through this, I can't even put words on it. It's just such a great thing. Like we've had so many people, primary and secondary care, being able to go through it, and the feedback we got is just it's just so good. Like that's one of those little things in life that make you go, yes, achieved, and that's really cool. So yeah, definitely do it.
Love that, Thibaut. From a brand point of view, the quick answer is yes, it's very important. The next thing to say is just have a look, not just at your competitors. People often think our talent rivals, we're competing with people in our space. who else are you competing with? Like Esri, Thibaut's company is a fascinating example. They're competing with lots of different types of organizations. So if you really want to figure out how important it is, even if you're simplifying this, look at your last 10 hires and ask them what other companies they were considering and what other companies they would look at overall, and then go and find out what they're offering. There's your comparison. And you're going to find very quickly that it does matter. The other thing I want to really reinforce, and I'm going to call something out here, we often see parental leave as oh God, and Thibaut went there on, no, it feels amazing to do this, and that is great. But even before that, parental leave is an amazing retention, connection, and performance strategy. It's an investment in like, let's go for the classic mother, right? Because we know about the motherhood penalty, we know about all this stuff. I employ a lot of women in my team, and I'm very grateful for what they bring. And part of that is that some of them are going to choose and be able to have children. And so I'm building that into my budget, right? You don't it's not all in on parental leave or not. You can look at what you can afford and what you can do. But I want those people, if their life allows and if their preferences are to return, I want them back. I don't want to lose them and then just replace them. There's been a mindset for too long, or let's be really honest, for some people, some companies don't do that because they're at risk, or they're in the demographic that's going to get pregnant. Seriously, like it's not just immoral, but it's also really stupid.
100%.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Hopefully that answers the question. I'm going to try and squeeze through this last one really quick. Suggestions for recruitment for the aged care sector. We are under a lot of pressure, so all suggestions warmly welcome. First one from me is Smart Match, please. If you haven't looked at it, we did a big campaign to get more active candidates, more active job seekers within the aged care sector onto that platform. I've even spoken to some of them before when we were doing customer research and things. So please check it out if you have not already. Any other suggestions, Mark and Thibaut, for aged care sector?
Me. This is my favorite sector. Human services blows my mind. It is so powerful. And there is such amazing stories to tell. And the person who's answered this, I know you well, I see you, and you know what I'm going to sound some of this, but I'll tell you some more afterwards. Incidentally, we have a guide on this and lots of other sectors as well. So feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn or connect, and I'll send you some. But aged care, it's about reinforcing. So number one, are you getting the basics right? I did these focus groups once. I was talking to a group and we were talking about culture and opportunity and career progression. And someone said, I just wish we had a kettle in our kitchen. Kmart's down the road, they cost $9. Go and buy a kettle. If you're the manager, bring a packet of custard creams to your, sorry, it's probably quite British, but bring a packet of Tim Tams to your meeting. These things matter, the basics, right? Get that right. If you're in an industry where pay is low, see what else you can do to improve the take home. Once you've got the functional stuff out of the way, it's about two things. It is about reinforcement and celebration and elevation of individual and collective impact, not just CEO's award at the end of the year. How are we driving and reminding people? Because that's why they're there, folks. They're not there for anything else. They're there to help older people to get the best out of the latter phase of their life and to die with comfort and not alone, right? That's what this is. So do that. The other one, invest in your leaders. Get your managers managing better, and then tell that story. You know, there's a whole load. Again, I've got some advice on if anyone wants it, but get out there and learn to tell your story better. You will absolutely see a higher volume of quality applicants applying for your roles, and not just applying, but joining and showing up, which plenty of people are not doing in this sector at the moment, and then staying and performing. The bar is so low that whether you are a 50-person aged care facility or you're 5,000, you have such an opportunity ahead of you.
Awesome.
I think the last one, just really briefly, if I can, is just also look into, creating your own workforce and looking into grad programs, getting people out of uni and actually really, put them through like what it is a career, what's a career like for, aged care. So yeah, absolutely look into that as well.
Fantastic. I'm going to do a very quick wrap up because we are over time. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Really, really wonderful. And thanks ever so much, Mark and Thibaut, for joining us. I learned a lot. There were some really cool tips in there for me. And I'm sure that actually a lot of our audience and listeners today enjoyed as well. For anyone who asked questions last minute, we will aim to get back to you in the kind of follow-up email, so please keep an eye out for that. And also just to everyone that has joined us today, a survey will launch automatically after we end the webinar, and we would really, really appreciate it if you took a minute to please fill it in. We genuinely go through every single comment and share the feedback. It's really valuable to us and helps us to understand what you'd like to see more or less of in the future, so please fill it out. Thanks so much to everyone that joined. Have a wonderful afternoon, and hopefully we'll see you again next time.
Thank you so much, Kate. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks
Mark.
everyone.
Thanks, Kate. See you guys.